Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a crime thriller film, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. As Michael is walking out of the courthouse, he is hounded by the press. He is a journalist who has just lost a libel case, filed against him by a wealthy businessman nicknamed Villain. He refuses to issue comments and walks past the press. Meanwhile, Elizabeth, a private investigator, is called to her client's office. She has just finished investigating Michael and is being asked what she thinks of him. She tells her tycoon client that she believes that he is not the type to engage in anything shady and illegal. Later that night, she breaks into Villain's apartment where she takes pictures of his security system so she can prepare to hack into it. Shortly after, Michael receives a call from a man who introduces himself as an attorney representing the rich man Tycoon. He tells Michael that Tycoon wishes to speak with him, and they will arrange a meeting. The next day, Michael takes a train to Sweden to meet with Tycoon at his mansion. Tycoon offers him a job. He will investigate the disappearance of Tycoon's granddaughter Harriet. Tycoon tells Michael that she disappeared 40 years ago, and that he believes one of his family members is responsible for it, but he doesn't know which one. Besides killing Harriet, the killer also insulted Tycoon by sending him flowers on his birthday, which only Harriet did when she was alive. In exchange for investigating Harriet's death, Tycoon would give Michael information on Villain that would verify his earlier accusations. Tycoon tells Michael that his accusations were right all along and that he would be able to prove Villain guilty and cleared his name with this information. This finally convinces Michael to accept the job. On the other hand, Elizabeth returns to Villain's apartment after having her friend construct a custom-fit machine to help her break into Villain's security system. Moving quickly and quietly, she attaches the machine to the server box and manages to slip out unnoticed. Meanwhile, Michael leaves the city and moves into the old cabin beside Tycoon's house. He meets Tycoon, who briefs him on each family member living near them. Tycoon tells Michael about his Nazi uncles, drunkard cousins, and abusive in-laws. The following day, he visits the policeman who handled the previous investigation 40 years ago, but finds no helpful clues. When he asks the policeman about the numbers and initials scribbled on the back of Harriet's diary, the policeman tells him that they are just telephone numbers that do not lead to anything important. One day, Elizabeth's state-appointed guardian suffers a stroke, so he becomes incapable of serving as her guardian and is replaced by a fat, sleazy man who accuses her of using drugs and being a delinquent. The fat man assumes control over her finances and blackmails her into accepting the agreement by threatening to restrict her freedom and confine her to state housing. Unable to decline, she begrudgingly accepts her new guardian and storms out of the office in frustration. That same evening, Michael visits Harriet's brother, Martin. Over dinner, Martin tells him about Harriet's disappearance and how the family company began to decline after her death. Martin tells him that the disappearance was an important event in the family's history. While in the train station, Elizabeth's bag gets snatched. She manages to get her bag back and escape, but finds that her laptop inside is broken. She goes to the social welfare office to ask her guardian for the money. He begins pulling her hand closer to his groin. After forcing her to unzip his pants, he forcefully pulls her head closer to his smelly privates, fully enjoying himself while she is unable to resist. After they finish, Elizabeth runs to the bathroom to puke and rinse her mouth. When she returns, he hands her the money for the laptop, and she leaves the building. As Michael continues his investigation, he flies to London to interview Harriet's cousin. As they are talking, he learns that when they were younger, Harriet was unhappy and messed up. She blames Harriet's parents and said that their family had a lot of issues. Meanwhile, Elizabeth calls her guardian to ask for money to buy food. She is instead invited to his house. She arrives at his house and is led to his bedroom. She puts her bag down on the table, where a camera inside can see and record everything. All of a sudden, he starts to put handcuffs on her wrists. She resists but gets choked and falls unconscious. When she wakes up, she is lying face down on the bed with her hands tied to the bedposts and her mouth tightly gagged. He starts ripping off her clothes, and after pulling off his own pants, he climbs on top of her. She resists desperately, but he still manages to have his way with her. Back in his cabin, Michael finds some photos where he finds someone looking through a window. When he checks to see who the person was, he notices that they look like both Harriet and her cousin. He investigates further. Elizabeth returns to her guardian's house to get her revenge. After telling him that she needs money, the guardian lets her in, and she tases him when his guard is down, knocking him unconscious. She drags his body to the bedroom where she strips him, then ties him down to the floor. He wakes up, and Elizabeth shows him the video she recorded previously. She tells him that she will release the video if he contacts her again and does not grant her complete control over her money. After he agrees, she inserts an instrument up his rectum and drives it in deeper when he starts resisting. She takes the keys to his apartment and threatens to kill him if she ever sees another woman inside his house again. Before she leaves, she tattoos the words, "I'm a rapist pig," on his chest. On the other hand, while going through photos of an event before Harriet went missing, Michael notices Harriet reacting to someone across the street before suddenly leaving the event. The next morning, he meets with his daughter, who brings his attention to the Bible verses on his desk. He is unsure of what she is referring to, but soon realizes that she was talking about the initials and numbers written on the back of Harriet's diary. He looks them up in a Bible and finds verses about a number of brutal punishments for sinners. He calls the policeman and asks for the name of another girl that also went missing. Michael discovers that the girl's initials match the ones on Harriet's diary, and that her violent death was similar to the brutal punishments he found in the Bible earlier. As they are talking, he sees an ambulance driving away from Tycoon's house. It is revealed that Tycoon has just had an accident. Convinced that he now has a lead on the investigation, Michael hires Elizabeth to be his assistant. After agreeing to help him, Elizabeth hacks into the police database and finds cases with circumstances that match the Bible verses. Elizabeth reports back to Michael and tells him that there is a pattern to all the killings, and that Harriet herself was investigating the serial killer. It also realized that all of the murdered women had names from the Bible and are all Jewish, suggesting that maybe one of Tycoon's Nazi family members had done the crimes. The next morning, they find a dead cat just outside their door, with its body mutilated and its limbs bent into the shape of a swastika. Apparently, this is a life threat and warning sent to them. Michael is outside investigating an old house in the woods when he is shot at by an unseen sniper. The bullet just barely grazes him, but luckily he escapes back to his cabin, where Elizabeth is busy setting up security cameras. After treating his wounds, she enters his room and takes off her clothes. They start tongue massaging and end up having a nasty hormone game. The following day, Elizabeth goes through the company's old archives, while Michael meets with Harriet's old relative to gather more photos. After sorting through the records, Elizabeth suspects Harriet's father of the murders, but is confused by how the murders continued even after his death. She continues to investigate and finds Martin in an old photo wearing the same jacket that their primary suspect wore. She finds out that Martin is the reason that the murders continued even after Harriet's father died. When she returns to find the cabin empty, she checks the security cameras and sees that Martin went to the cabin. At the same time, Michael begins to suspect Martin. He breaks into Martin's empty house at night. He grabs a knife for protection and starts looking around the house. Just after he sees Martin's rifle collection, he hears a car pulling into the driveway. When Michael tries to leave, Martin sees him and invites him back into the house. They talk for a while before Martin pulls out a gun and leads Michael to a secret room where he is knocked out by some gas. Michael wakes up hanging from the ceiling with his hands bound. Martin begins recording with a camera before telling Michael how he hates immigrants. Michael asks him why he killed Harriet, even though she wasn't an immigrant. As a result, Martin suddenly gets angry and tries to suffocate Michael with a plastic bag. While he suffocates, Martin tells him that their father used to sexually abuse both him and Harriet. Just before he cuts Michael with his knife, Elizabeth arrives and hits him on the head with a golf club. She frees Michael and tends to him, but Martin manages to escape and drive away. Elizabeth finds a gun in the room and chases after him on her motorcycle. Eventually, Elizabeth manages to overtake Martin, causing him to lose control over the car. He crashes and the car is flipped on its side. With Martin stuck inside the car and unable to move, Elizabeth approaches the vehicle with the gun in her hand. She is walking toward him when the car suddenly explodes and Martin dies, his body left burning in the car's flames. The police find the car the next morning. Michael wakes up back in the cabin and sees Elizabeth lying down beside him. They begin talking, and she tells him about how she tried to kill her father when she was 12 by burning him alive. Afterward, Michael tells Elizabeth how Martin got angry when he mentioned Harriet. He believes that Martin wasn't the one that killed her, and that Harriet's father also couldn't have done it, since he died the year before she disappeared. They speculate that she might have escaped and might still be alive. So they decide to travel back to London to ask Harriet's cousin if she had any idea where Harriet could have gone if she really did escape. In London, they stake out in a van outside the cousin's apartment. When she arrives home, Michael visits her and tells her that Harriet's brother just died, but she isn't interested. She dismisses him immediately and closes the door. He returns to the van, where they monitor her calls and internet browsing, but do not find anything useful. They return to their hotel and continue to monitor her. When they still don't find anything, they have a nasty hormone game again. In bed, Elizabeth tells him that Harriet is dead, but Michael remains unconvinced and tells her that there is one other possibility. The next day, Michael goes to the cousin's office. He shows her the wounds he got from getting tied up to the ceiling by Martin and then accidentally calls her Harriet. It turns out that she was Harriet all along. Harriet, who was masquerading as her cousin the whole time, tells Michael about how she was able to leave the country by assuming her cousin's identity. By using her cousin's passport and pretending she was her, Harriet managed to avoid suspicion, travel to London, and fool their family into thinking that she had truly died. In London, Harriet continued to use her cousin's identity, but tells him that her real cousin had died with her husband 2 decades ago in a car accident. Michael shows her a photo of a naked woman and asks her if she was the person in the photo. Harriet reveals that her father raped her repeatedly when she was younger, and that after he died, Martin started raping her too. She then tells Michael how her father got too drunk one evening and tried to kill her. That night, she managed to run out of the house, and when her father chased her, she hit him on the head with a paddle, knocking him unconscious as he fell into the lake beside them, where he drowned to death. Unfortunately, her brother Martin saw her kill him and used this as an excuse to rape and abuse her. Finally, her cousin invited her to run away with her. Her cousin smuggled Harriet, and they left the country. After that, Michael reassures Harriet that she is finally safe, as both Martin and her father are dead. The following day, Michael and Elizabeth return to Tycoon's mansion, where he hands him the information on Villain in exchange for investigating Harriet's disappearance. When they leave Tycoon's office, Tycoon sees Harriet standing in the corridor. He starts crying, and they hug each other tightly. After 40 years, they are finally reunited. Upon checking the information Tycoon gave him, Michael gets frustrated, because the information was so outdated that he would not be able to file a case against Villain. He angrily walks away and tosses the documents into the fire. However, Elizabeth tells him that before he hired her, she was investigating Villain too, and that she might have information on him that he can use. Michael discovers that Villain was laundering money made from weapons, drugs, and Russian syndicates, and even hiding his money in offshore bank accounts. When he publishes the story, the news goes viral, and Villain is investigated by the authorities for his crimes. Meanwhile, Elizabeth borrows money from Michael, which she uses to get a makeover. She secures a fake passport and leaves the country. Upon checking into a hotel, she starts hacking into Villain's foreign bank accounts and steals his money. Days later, news reports that Villain had left the country, but was found dead a few days later. Finally, Elizabeth returns home. She throws away her disguise and plans to visit Michael to pay him back. The next day, she buys Michael a nice leather jacket for Christmas, but ultimately ends up throwing it away when she sees him with another woman. This is Daniel's CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.